You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time to tear into the options market yet again. It is time for your Hot Options Report for Monday, November 24th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you at the top of the show, make sure wherever you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to your favorite podcast, make sure you subscribe to the full network. Otherwise, you're really missing out. And of course, speaking of missing out, check out theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That's the place to go to learn all about the pro Q&As and oddities and everything else that's coming at you tomorrow here. Live streams, all sorts of goodies and giveaways. theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And of course, while you're listening to the show, while you're checking out URLs, make sure you're visiting our friends over there at Quick Options. That's where all this data is coming from. They made an awesome free report just for you folks. thehotoptionsreport.com, the place to go to learn more. As we learn what was lighting up the tape out there today, let's kick things off in VIX land, shall we? On a day when the market's pretty firmly in the green, S&P up about 1.5%, NASDAQ up nearly 2.7%. VIX cash coming back to earth a little bit today in that environment, closing right around 20.52 to be precise. Not a banger day on the volume front, only 543,000 contracts on the tape. That's against an ADV that has now officially crossed the threshold of 1 million. 1.01 million is the ADV in VIX land. So look out there. When VIX hits a million ADV, you got to be on your toes a little bit out there in the markets. You know, things are spicy. The game is afoot, listeners. What was the hot option on a kind of light day in VIX today? 26,000 of the D17 puts. Back to the downside. Average price for these about 39 cents, listeners. As we keep going out to SPY. SPY looking pretty decently active, 10.3 million contracts changing hands against an ADV of about 10.2 million contracts, listeners. Like we said, SPY popping today, almost 1.5%, closing 668.73, listeners. And the hot option out there today, 586,000 of these 670 calls. Average price for these about 33 cents. As we keep on rolling out to the S, listeners, same deal, the S up about 1.5%. SPX closing today, listeners, 67.0512, putting up 4.17 million contracts against an ADV of about 4.6. So as we expected on the option block earlier today, coming in kind of light out there today. The hot option out there today, 160,000 of the 6710 calls. Average price for these, about $3.70 out to small caps IWM. IWM has been, small caps in general, listeners, have just been lighting up the tape out there of late. Was that the case out there today? First off, quite the banger to the upside. Up nearly 2%, about 1.83% to the upside for small caps today. So IWM definitely lighting up the tape out there from a underlying movement perspective, closing 239.90. Was it a banger day from a volume perspective? The answer was it was pretty respectable. A little over 1.75 million contracts, the ADV about 1.9, so slightly below that pretty inflated ADV, listeners. And the hot option out there, 135,000 of the 240 calls expiring today, so same day calls. Average price for these, about 20 cents. So some folks rolling the bones, looks like on a little bit of near dated upside in small caps. As we keep on rolling out to the Qs, listeners, the Qs were on the rampage today. They started out of the gate hot and never really looked back. Ended up closing up over 2.56%, closing 605.16 today, listeners. Putting up about 5.75 million contracts against an ADV of 5.6 million. So not surprising that it came in a little bit above expectations. The hot option out there, 284,000 of these 605s. Average price for these, about 70 cents. All right, let's keep on rolling, listeners. To the single name equities we go. Was it a banger day out there? The answer, after a hot Friday, kind of cooling off a little bit. Only 532,000 contracts is what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. Once again, that gets you to our old pal SoFi. They've been struggling with this 30 handle in both directions lately. Sold off well below it last week. Rallying back towards it a little bit today. Closing today, $27.40, up nearly 2.25% and nearly 9%. Again, putting up 532,000 contracts for the number 10 spot, the hot option out there. 20,000 of the 28 half calls expiring not this Friday, but next Friday. 28 halves. Can we get there? Average price for these, 62 cents, listeners. Looking a heck of a lot better today than they would have last Friday, listeners, as we keep on rolling. To number 9, the artist formerly known as Facebook. It is Meta. Closing today, $613.05, up $18.80, or a little over 3% today. Putting up 561,000 contracts on the number 9 spot, the hot option out there today. 22K of the 620s expiring this Friday. Average price nearly $5, $4.72. So not giving these away. Meta would need another day or two like today. And then those calls are looking pretty good if you're buying them as we keep on rolling. To number 8, it's Palantir. Closing today, $162.25, up nearly $7.50, or 4.75%. Putting up 566,000 contracts. For the number 8 spot, the hot option out there today, 22, almost 23,000. Of the 170s going the way of the dodo on Friday. Average price for these, $1.34. So once again, can Palantir continue this rampaging upside throughout the rest of the week? If you're buying those 170s, you certainly hope so. As we keep on rolling to AMD, closing $215.05 today, up about 11.25%, about 5.5%. Putting up 579,000 contracts for the number 7 spot, the hot option out there today. 24,000 of the 225s going out this Friday. So AMD going to have to get in gear. Average price for those about $1.42. As we keep on rolling to number 6, it's good old Goog. Not Class A, but good old Class C, listeners. Closing $318.50, up $18.80, or about 6.25%. Putting up 615,000 contracts for good old Goog. The hot option out there today, 22,000 of the 320s. Average price for these, $361. These look far more reasonable than they did on Friday, listeners, as we keep on rolling to number 5, the Amazonians. $226.28 is where it went out, up about $5.60, or about 2.5%. Putting up 647,000 contracts for the number 5 spot today. The hot option, 32, almost 33,000 of the 230 calls. Expiring on Friday, average price $1.29. Another day like today, and those are looking pretty good. As we keep on rolling to number 4, listeners, it's the Fruit Company, closing $275.92, up $4.43, or about 1 2/3%. Putting up 759,000 contracts for the number 4 spot, the hot option out there today, 86,000 of the 280s. Average price for these, 70 cents. Looks like if folks are buying all these, folks are really betting on a banger shortened holiday trading week, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 3, it's the other half of the alphabet sandwich, Class A. $318.58 is where that stock went out, up about almost $19, or 6.33%. Putting up 1.02 million contracts. So the number 3 spot, the hot option out there today in alphabet Class A land, 53,000 of the 320 calls. Average price for these, $3.65, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 2, it's Tesla roaring back to life today, closing $417.78, up about $26.69, or 6.8%. So again, rampage into the upside, putting up nearly 2 million contracts, 1.95 million contracts. The hot option, I was guessing 430s or 440s earlier today, but no, it was the 420s that took it, so maybe a little less optimistic. But still, 420s putting up $7.54. 101,000 of those going up today, listeners. So interesting stuff. 420, obviously, not that hard for Tesla to keep that going throughout the rest of the week. All right, listeners. Now we come to it, the top of our single name most actives for this week. Once again, it's our old pal, Nvidia. Closing today, 182.55. After struggling earlier in the session, ended up closing up 3 1/3, or about 1.9% on the day. putting up a hair shy of 3 million contracts today in the hot option out there. 168,000 of the 185 calls. Average price for these, $1.96. Going to do it for us on your hot options report for Monday, November 24th. Are you down with all this upside that is slinging once again in the market? Is this fool's gold going to go to die, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know. We'll be back tomorrow with our European market brief to kick things off bright and early, followed at the end of the day by, of course, another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.